Good morning. It's May 27th, 2025, and it's about 1 a.m. And I'm doing this live in respect to a situation that I observed in Guyana at the Soca and Wine concert at the Marriott Backlands, where a visiting New York based Guyanese was arrested by the police on his birthday, tasered, and amongst other things. And we'll see how the police treated with that specific situation so that we could discuss whether the training is working and how the modernization is going. So the government of Guyana, under His Excellency Mohammed Irfan Ali and the Minister of Home Affairs, the Honorable Robson Ben, has invested billions of dollars in the Guyana Police Force. The Guyana Police Force has much more modern vehicles than they would have had in any time in their history. They're even getting a helicopter soon, or an airplane, so that they could conduct air defense, and they could respond quickly to some situations where they're required to fly. But I think what is significant is recently the police were given 5,000 body-worn cameras. The Guyana Police Force has less than 5,000 officers at the rank of constable to sergeant. These are road cops. So they're on the road a lot. And so it exists now that each officer in the Guyana Police Force can have his or her own body-worn camera. So there's no excuse for not activating a body-worn camera when an officer is on a scene and taking enforcement actions. And that's the body-worn cameras are for accountability, for transparency, and it protects the officers and it protects the public as well. Because if the public makes an allegation against the police can always go to the body-worn camera to either support or debunk what the person says. The police also can use their body-worn cameras to take statements from witnesses on the scene. They can use that body-worn camera to record the scene, record how the scene was prior to them taking enforcement action, and the scene after they took enforcement action. So body-worn cameras are certainly important in 2025, and their proper use cannot be understated. Let's talk about tasers now. Tasers are conduct energy weapons, or some people call them stun guns, and they are a less than lethal force in the armament of the police. And certainly before a police officer or a police constable, let me say, uses a conduct energy weapon, they have to undergo training. They have to undergo training in the use of that conduct energy weapon. And a conduct energy weapon could be used in probe mode, where there's two prongs that are in the taser, And if you use it in the probe mode, then the two prongs are deployed. And if it's a good hit, the two prongs embed themselves in the body of the subject. And when the police officer pressed the trigger of the taser, then the 5-second deployment of energy into the person. And if it's effective, then the person would lose voluntary control of their body and they would fall to the ground. If one probe gets into the body, then the deployment is not effective. And so if the two probes get in, then the police officer can deploy the conduct energy weapon more than once in 5-second bursts to gain compliance of the suspect. Usually, and like it's effective if it's used properly. So conduct energy weapons or tasers shouldn't be used on a handcuffed suspect. It shouldn't really be used in sensitive areas of the body, head, neck, and genitals. It shouldn't be used on a person in control of a moving vehicle, bicycle, or other conveyance. When a conduct energy weapon is used, it should be removed by medical personnel or an officer who has training in doing so. And when an officer removes the probes, they should still have a medical personnel look at the suspect. When they following the CEW or conduct energy weapon use, data should be downloaded for audit and analysis by designated personnel as soon as possible, because you can actually, the taser data can tell you a lot. And the taser, like I said, it's one of the weapons that now is in the use of force arsenals of the police. I'm not sure what taser the officer had, but the Guyana police officer, you'll see the taser. It looked like an X2 dual cartridge taser. So we'll look at some videos, and then we'll discuss it in a little more detail. Here, my screen. So this is the initial arrest. So you'll hear me saying at that point, so the man is sitting on top of one of the stalls when the police approach. As you could see, the inspector showed up with no less than 10 officers, police officers, constables and sergeants, some in plain clothes and some in uniform. And so they could have sort of create a perimeter around the man, issue certain instructions to the man, and remove him. But what you saw is the man is sitting up there. The officer just the officer in charge, which was the inspector, just go up there and tugging at his pants, pulled him off the stall that he was sitting on. You can see that was dangerous because there was a bottle to the right of the man. The man could have actually caused injury to the officer because there was a bottle, sorry, to his left. You'll see the bottle there, and you'll see what the man did with the bottle in a few minutes, in a few seconds. So that was not and I looked at it and I said, that's not the right approach. You'll see what the man did with the bottle. See, the man picked up the bottle and continued drinking whatever substance was in that bottle. The man continued drinking it. I mean, if that was poison or something else, he's detained by the police at this point. He shouldn't have had access to anything that he could consume. And so that's another issue. At this point, this officer who is wearing a rain boots, he has on sort of a tactical helmet. He deploys his taser in probe mode at the guy, at the man who they haven't really told yet that he's arrested. They haven't told him what he's arrested for. None of that. You can't hear that. But you have one of them pulling him off the stall that he's sitting on by his pants, leaving a bottle where the man can have access to it. And then you have this officer deploying that taser. The man hasn't offered any resistance yet. They haven't even given him any commands or instructions. But they moved the taser in him without telling him, giving him instructions and telling him that if he fails to comply with the instructions, they're going to have to use a taser on him or less than lethal force on him. Nothing has been commanded to him in that respect. And I, as a lawyer who is familiar with these things, just happened to be there in Guyana, just happened to be there at Soca and Wine and observe the police actions, which is important because you want to observe these things firsthand so that you can offer your informed perspective having regard to the nature and the circumstances of what was occurring at the material time. And you have a bird's eye view on it. You're not sort of armchair quarterbacking. So you see, he tasers the guy. When he tasered the guy, the suspect, a probe got a probe, the wires got emitted. And it's clear that the tasering wasn't effective. Otherwise, the man would have fell. On the other hand, you could say that the inspector, there could be different things. The inspector ran in to grab him so that he doesn't fall and injure himself further, or the inspector pushed him down. Let's look at it again, because it's important. See what the inspector did. The inspector grabbed the man by his t-shirt and then pushed him forward, as though he's trying to assist the process in the man falling, which wasn't happening because the taser was not effectively deployed. We'll just run it out and then we'll talk about it. See, the man has his hands up, right? Even though the taser deployment was not effective, the man put his hands up, stating that he's surrendering. Your hands up is that you're surrendering. It seems like there was a deployment, but it wasn't effective. But the police seems like the taser officer seems like he deployed 2 different rounds. But the conduct energy weapon keeps that data, right? So after I post this this live, I hope the police do extract the data and analyze it. So you'll see another video now as to what happened when the man. So you saw the man while he was standing, he put his hands up. Because regardless of whether he was drunk or not, he understood it was the police. He understood that a taser was deployed on him. And he understood that at this point, whether he wanted to resist or not, it was futile. So you put your hands up, you surrendering. Let's see what happens next. Just give me a second. Yeah, so you'll see the problematic aspect of what's going on with the police and this man, and how poorly they really handled this arrest. I mean, you're having an arrest in a public forum, and a lot of people are watching. You know, you're not necessarily doing the arrest for the people, but the people are watching. So you got to do these things textbook, especially in these big public forums. See the man go down on his knees, right? The man goes down on his knees and he's got his hands up. You got a man in plain clothes and a hat behind him. You've got an officer with his taser in his hands. To the left, you've got another officer. One officer should have been on his right side to take control of his right hands. Another officer should have been on his left to take control of his left hands at the point where he has his hands up. And so you handcuff it so that you could effectively handcuff him, properly ground him, and then um, continue the arrest. But look how this is handled. It looks like he's got kicked in. It looks like he's got kicked in the face by the person in civilian clothes with this, and it looks like the inspector is doing something to him, whether assaulting him, but it's definitely not handcuffing him. Look at it again. You see, this guy looks like he kicked him in the face, and there's they're not assisting with the handcuffing. There's somebody else at the back doing the handcuffing. This officer here with the uniform is doing the handcuffing. It looks like the plainclothes person, who we can assume is a police officer, uh, brings him up. Whatever happened, you see all the blood, see all the Fred blood spatter where this is, and the inspector is stepping on the biohazardous blood. He's gonna hold that same shoes tonight, the night when he goes home, to take it off. Right. So poor policing. A suspect is injured. This is not a superficial injury where you see this blood and you're stepping into the biohazardous material. Like, how effective can you be? How smart can you be? How strategic could you be when you're doing this? See, civilians are close. There's the inspector and plainclothes officer, Lance Corporal handling the man. It's a whole bunch of constables. The inspector is the supervisor. He should have let the constables handle the man instead of getting into this sort of confrontation. Before they picked him up, they should have done a pat down search of him. And none of that is done. I don't want to pretend I'm chair quarterback, but of course I'm a lawyer who deals with cases of this sort, use of force by the police. So I have an informed perspective on it. And this video, this video here, is interesting to watch. You would have also seen that when the man was on the ground, an officer used the taser in prong mode, First, they use it in probe mode, and a wire was embedded with two prongs. They hit the suspect and get compliance. When he was on the ground, either the same officer, and it can be the same officer, another officer used his taser in prong mode to sort of continue or stun mode, sorry, to continue tasering the suspect. Despite the presence of all that blood, and despite the presence of paramedics at the event, none of the officers called for the paramedics to look at him. And as well, it does not appear that the officers collected the items that was surrounding the man, including the bottle that he drank from, his wallet, and other items that were there, including his cell phone. So you'll see he's appealing to get his belongings retrieved. So that is part of the process. You'll see that he wants his items. He wants his belongings to be retrieved that was left at the stall where he was sitting at. But I mean, the arrest, as I saw it, it presented difficult issues for me and forced me to have to speak about it. I was reluctant to speak about it because, as soon as you speak about these things, people say, well, you're anti-police, but it's not anti-police. It's we're investing a lot of money as Guyanese citizens in training of these officers and providing them with the necessary equipment to make their so you see him being marched out, right? He's been marched out from a crowded venue. See, at this point, at the point where I stopped the video, he was basically asking somebody to retrieve his stuff. You've got these tactical officers, well, not tactical in the sense of TSU, but they have their helmets, they have their bulletproof vests, they have their guns, they have their tasers, all the stuff. They're there, the inspector is there, and a plainclothes man who we can assume is a police officer. If he's not a police officer, then it's problematic that they have this plainclothes, this man in plainclothes with this brown cap on, and this other man with this bluish gray shirt, so close to the arrest and participating in the arrest and detention of the man. There's another civilian here now with a black cap in front of these two police officers in the middle of an arrest. So what role they are playing in the arrest is interesting. There's a third one now. This man here with this Beret Congo type hat, overweight, and a kind of a plaided Caribbean shirt. He's also um, involved in the arrest. So it's one man. You have an inspector, you have a corporal, and from the look of things, you have three constables. So three, one, two, three, four, five in uniform, including two supervisors, an inspector, and a constable. And they have three persons in civilian clothing. This person in the orange sweater, who could be a plainclothes police officer as well, because he was on the scene overlooking the man at the point where the police showed up to arrest him. They're still roughing him up. That inspector should have left the escort, seeing that his adrenaline was very high at this point. He should have let the constables and the corporal move the man out instead of him. In the man behavior prior to the police arriving for transparency purposes was clearly a person who had too much to drink or imbibed some substance that made him was acting in a manner that was irrational. And I'll show you the video for transparency purpose of what what one of the situations that occurred that may have resulted in the police being called to remove him from the venue. You're gonna have to ignore the comments that are. See if I could move the comments that are there. There's some comments from where the video is stored that kind of teachy, but pull the video up so y'all can see talking about. So share the video. So this is the man prior to being, at some point prior to being arrested. He seemed to have smashed something on the table where he was sitting, and then he was sitting next to the Pepsi Cola display. He seemed to have plunged through it. Look at it. You see, it's the same man, the same hair, the same pants, and the same shoes that make it identifiable. That's him. So that was the man's behavior prior to him being arrested. But it seems like the inspector and him had a prior interaction, because you can hear somebody saying, commenting on that in the last video that I just showed you. So it makes sense that the inspector shouldn't have really been the one to deal with the man, because his adrenaline would have been high based on what probably occurred previously. And I don't know what occurred previously, but hopefully this video would result in a transparent process of understanding the who, what, where, when, why, and how that led to the man being arrested, tasered, bloodied on the ground, and so on and so forth. But you can see that is clearly a person who used too much substances on his birthday, whether it's alcohol or whatever else, used too much substances on his birthday, and certainly uh, the effects of what he used led him to a state of intoxicate, well, extreme intoxication, let's say. And so we have to understand and learn how to deal with people who have extreme intoxication issues, because certainly the man was overweight. You're using a taser on him, you got him on the ground, he's injured already, and you're compounding his injury. And so that could have ended up worse than it is. So um, this video hopefully is informative, and hopefully there are teachable moments from this video. And hopefully even, I think the man, so the man's name is Lyndon Ryan Henry. So he's Lyndon Ryan Henry from Brooklyn, New York. So hopefully he has a chance to look at the video as well. And if the police charge them, if the police charge them, him or his lawyer can contact me, and I'll give them the full 6 minute video that I recorded from the time that he was arrested, or prior to his march through the Marriott Marriott Hotel to the police van that was parked outside of the vehicle, and my conversation with him while he was in the police vehicle as well. So that's this is the video, and certainly it's not to put the police officers who are the front line, who are on the front line as law enforcers on blast. It's not. This is not the intention of the video, but sometimes when you witness failings, when you witness errors, when you witness omissions, when you miss you see conduct that certainly is questionable of unto the officers, you can certainly ignore it, or you can say something about it. I think that there were a lot of feelings that evening. I haven't showed the part where that man, whoever he is, anybody could identify him. Let me know. That man with the Congo type hat, the overweight one with the plaid type of Caribbean carnival shirt, assaulted me actually. Tried to slap the phone, tried to slap my phone out of my hands. Almost broke my phone, but I'm gonna do another live about that because I just wanted to focus on the use of force on the suspect and how poor the execution was on the part of the inspector and the corporal with the taser, how ineffective they were in terms of handcuffing them, doing a proper handcuffing when the man had his hands up. I mean, it was quite simple. One on the right side, one on the left side, bring the man hands down, handcuff him, handcuff him while he was kneeling, and then ground him. What they did is push him down, assaulted him, and you can see all the fresh blood spatter. It's not me saying that, and the video shows that. You can analyze the video. You know, handcuff him, taser him again. One, the plainclothes one kicked him. The inspector is beating him up from the front, and that's why you saw a significant mass of blood spatter there. Totally unlawful, totally against the law, and ripe for condemnation by me who saw it. When they do this, they create touch points for lawyers to bring applications to have the matter stayed as an abusive process or excessive use of force. And rightfully so, because we expect our police to conduct themselves when they're in the field, themselves with the highest ethical standard. They must conduct themselves in a way that if somebody like me is watching, your arrest is textbook because you're exercising mental discipline that requires you to meet the test of rectitude, because as police officers you're under constant scrutiny. When y'all were doing that arrest, y'all didn't know that Selwyn Peters, an international lawyer who practices law in Canada, Trinidad, or Ontario was watching, and that Selwyn Peters is familiar, very, very familiar with the use of tasers, with use of force, and with the posture that police officers in Guyana should conduct themselves. After all, you all must remember that Selwyn Peters was a joint forces lawyer. There are very few lawyers in Guyana that was appointed as a joint services lawyer. A lawyer representing police, army, fire, prisons. But I was that guy that got appointed by President Granger to do that in 2016, joint forces lawyer. So I know the operational posture of the police as well in Guyana. Very, very familiar with the police posture. And not only have I been a joint services lawyer, but I've represented police officers from constable to assistant commissioner. And then I represented the Police Services Commission in Guyana. I was the lawyer that had carriage of the Police Service Commission filed in 2021. Represented Paul Slow and the audit, and Clinton Conway, Vester Adams, Claire Jarvis, Michael Somersall, police officers of distinctions who were fired by the president after some issue. And we fought that case and we won it. We won it at before Justice Gino Prasad. There was an appeal filed by the Attorney General, but that appeal, Justice Prasad rendered his decision in 2023. The Attorney General filed an appeal of that 2023 decision, March 2023 decision. And I'm not sure whether that case has been affected, what the status of that case is, but that, in terms of policing in Guyana, I've done that case. I've done the prison fire case in 2016. I've done the commission of inquiry into the conspiracy to underlife the president at the time, David Arthur Granger, and a few other matters. The Linden Commission of Inquiry in 2011. I've done that. The Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry in 2015. So I've done a lot of major projects involving the police in Guyana. So y'all gonna have to come good if you think I'm not familiar with police posture and police procedures, because I am. But like I said, it's not, this video is not meant, I can't stress that enough. This video is not meant to be criticizing the police across the board. It's meant to analyze what happened at Soca and Wine, so that not only the officers involved in the incident at Soca and Wine can learn, but other officers can also have teachable moments from it. The inspector, I think it's an inspector, he certainly did not lead in a manner that could instill confidence, right? I mean, commands should have been issued in a way that those of us who were observing could have heard those commands. Like I said, before that taser was deployed, the man should have been given certain instructions and told that if he fails to comply, the taser would be used. That is how those police officers in Guyana, in Canada, and in the United States were trained. That's why they tell you, when you buy those tasers, you have to issue the command before you even deploy the taser. Taser, taser, taser. You have to issue that command and then deploy the taser, so that the suspect, even in his drunkenness, could appreciate that he's gonna suffer some significant harms with that conduct energy weapon if those two prongs get into him and the energy is deployed into his body, he's gonna involuntarily collapse to the ground, which could result in some injury. And then you know, like you have you have enough officers in uniform to overwhelm the person, but yet you have three persons in civilian clothing. Nothing that tells you that they're police officers, but they're also involved in this arrest. And one of them is seen to be kicking the suspect while he's handcuffed and face down on the ground. Absolutely unnecessary, absolutely unlawful. So this is my video on the situation, and I'm gonna end this live.